Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I don't know what time it is where you are. That's fine. That's Young Fun. I'm Aaron. We are ZAPY Speaking. And today we're going to be looking at Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday giving a motivational speech to his football team. Now, Young Fun and I are both award winning speakers. We've done a ton of speeches on different subjects and different styles, be it motivational, educational, whatever, doesn't matter. And we're going to see how accurate this video or this clip is to reality. So we're going to go bit by bit and we're going to see what happens. You ready to jump in, Young Fan?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm looking forward.
All right, let's do it. Let's see Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday.
I don't know what to say, really. 3 minutes to the biggest battle of our professional lives. All comes down to today. Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can.
Okay, let's just stop it for 1 second here. There's a couple things. One thing that is not true to reality, of course, there isn't normally music that just kind of cues in naturally when we're giving a speech. As nice as that would be, I would love to have someone who just follows me around and plays appropriate music for a speech I'm giving. That would be fantastic. But something that he's doing in there that's done, I don't know, he's the writer, whoever you want to credit with this, is he's starting low, right? Low energy. He's almost got this like I've given up kind of depressing thing going on, right? Like, ugh, I don't know what to tell you, right? So it starts low, and that's because one of the goals in motivation, at least when I give a motivational speech, is to have a huge emotional change. If you start low, it means you can go high. And sometimes what people do, if you look at like if this is kind of neutral emotionally, people will start by dipping the speech way down to get as low as they can, so that when they come back up, it feels like an even bigger change to that more positive point. So that's kind of what he's doing in the beginning here.
Right. I would like to usually call movie as ideal version of real world, especially this kind of sports film. It react towards a real event that happened, but the content is fictional. Because movie production, these actors have a lot of rehearsal time, and they can time it, and they can deliver the tones, values, and everything about the speech to a perfect amount until the director say yes. Otherwise, they can take 100 times. So I personally enjoy looking at this film to see what I can do as a speaker can achieve to the fullest amount. So what this film at the beginning tell us is you first acknowledge the current situation, build a rapport with the audience in the room, which is football players. And they were at a down moment and they were losing the game. So there's hell in them. And then you describe the whole situation, make it simple. You either stay there or you fight yourself out. And when you say you fight yourself out, your voice move towards the more positive notes compared to the previous summary of current challenging situation. So that's the ideal version of what any speaker want to achieve in that effect. But again, it's moving, they take hundreds take, maybe 10, 20 to make that happen. But in the real life, we have one chance.
Plus, he gets the exact reaction from the audience he wants, which does not always happen. There are definitely times when you say something that you want people to feel or you want people to laugh at, and they just like blank stare at you, deadpan. It feels so bad. Anyway, let's keep going here. Let's see what he does. How does he bring the energy back in? Young Fun mentioned something important, which is he starts to build up to an idea. He talks about that fighting thing and he builds it into a theme, but let's see how he does it.
And climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. Now, I can't do it for you. I'm too old. I look around, I see these young faces, and I think, I mean, I made every wrong choice a middle-aged man can make. I pissed away all my money, believe it or not. I chased off anyone who's ever loved me. And lately, I can't even stand the face I see in the mirror. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either...
Just before he keeps going, two things I want to mention real quick. One is the increase in volume. So I talked about before that idea that you go bring this low emotion so you get to a higher one. That's a really common thing you see people do in motivational speeches. He's starting to do that because he's starting to speak a little bit louder. In the beginning, he's like bottoming out his volume with the I don't know what to tell you. And now life's this game. It's a little bit louder. It's a little bit louder. It's coming in a bit louder. And the body language is changing. Right in the beginning, and there's like some slow-mo things where he's like looking down. He's dejected. His shoulders are down. His head's down. Everything's down. Right. And now as he's getting to this more hopeful stuff, you see him standing. He's like pointing that paper, which it's a nice prop because it makes it feel more real that he's holding on to something and doing something with it. I don't like that in speeches. And if I'm giving a speech, I'm not playing with something in my hand because that can draw people's attention away from what I'm saying. But it adds to this and it makes it feel even more dejected because he's like smacking his hand with something, right? But that can take away. So in general, though, I think that the body language and like you see this buildup of energy towards this kind of climax that's coming. So I like the way that they've structured that, is that they're building towards a climactic point.
I would say here's a tactic going on of the speaker putting himself in a lower spot in order to lift the audience up. Yeah. Let's think about a real power dynamic in the room here. He's not a coach. He has respect for the players. Yeah, he said he's not doing well. He's going through some midlife crisis as a man. So he's putting himself down in order to lift the other people up. And you think about for a public speaker here, when you take the control of the room, the power dynamic shift as well. You are in control and the audience are follow your lead. So now you have the chance to do the same thing of put yourself down in order to lift others up. And that is a tactic that the coach usually do, a lot of supervisors does to their trainees, even in the work scenario. A public speaker, they can usually do that to get the engagement because that shift will make the audience say, oh, you're no longer just talking down to me, you are lifting me up, and they will listen to the climax coming next.
You're kind of saying I'm one of you type thing. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good point. All right, let's see what Al Pacino for us.
The game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. Hell yeah. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. Yeah. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's gonna win that inch. And I know if I'm gonna have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. The 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you.
Hell yeah.
You're gonna see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're gonna do the same for him.
Hell yeah.
That's a team, gentlemen.
Hell yeah.
And
Okay. We're kind of like, we might be just past, we're getting to that climactic point where he's bringing the energy to the highest point, and that is obviously important. This is where you get that big, this is where I kind of end up with a bit of dissociation from movie motivational speeches, because I think that it's nice to have something tangible, right? And this is something Young Fun and I have discussed before. For a sports speech, this might work because he's going to get an emotional response from these players that would last for 15, 20 minutes, whatever, right? As long as any motivational speech where you just yell at people lasts. But one issue I take with this kind of speech is there's no long-term takeaway. Like when I try and motivate a student of mine, like or someone I'm coaching, when I worked in insurance, when I tried to motivate people, I was a manager. When managers tried to motivate people, they were looking for longer term results than the next 15 minutes. So you wouldn't hear a speech where it's, we're going to claw with our fingernails, right? You wouldn't hear that because that gives 15 minutes of high energy, high emotion, high results. But often in life, we're looking for something longer. So this is one issue where I see a separation between real life and movie speeches, or maybe it's just sports speeches, because I haven't given speeches to sports teams. I'm not athletic. There's absolutely no reason someone in a sports team should believe anything I have to say. But when I look at the speeches that I use motivation in, be it giving feedback, trying to teach someone something, these are times when I'm looking for long-term results, not short-term high emotion response. So I would I look for something more tangible, but what he's doing does work for the kind of thing that he's trying to do, which is get a huge emotional reaction from his audience. So he's going with really high energy. That's what living is. You got to fight to die with the people on your team. You got to work hard, right? All these different things. What we're going to see in a second is him changing the emotion again, or maybe 30 seconds. He's going to change the emotion again, and that's something we'll cover after that. But yeah, I found any ideas before we move on to the last bit?
Yes. So Aaron covered all the philosophy and how useful this kind of speech is. And what I want to is just let's bring back to the speech itself. It has a very nice content techniques all combined, like perfectly. That's why I say it's the perfect version of real word. The key words here is 1 inch. He repeat this word, going for that inch many, many times. And every time he say that word, his energy goes higher by one level, until he reaches the peak. And that is where a lot of great speech is about. You think back from Martin Luther King. Every time he said, I have a dream, the energy goes up. Every time Barack says, yes, we can, yes, we can, yes, we can, the energy goes up.
Yeah.
So everything of the half-hour speech in those two influential speakers boil down to the few words, and that's built into the climax. And that is the techniques for perfect speech to make a great impact.
So yeah, repetition is huge, and it's something that can make a big difference. So we'll see a little bit more of that in here. Let's finish off the clip and then give some final thoughts.
either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals. That's football, guys. That's all it is. Now, what are you gonna do?
All right, that's the rest of it. I mean, the video is just very.
Don't we wish
large.
our room become like that after we give a speech?
Yeah, I wish people would jump up and like the best I've gotten is like, woo! I don't know, maybe I just suck compared to help.
You know play some sports.
Yeah, maybe I should really get into sports and give it to a team. We'll see if they get this excited. I do think that sports is a very specific setting. So I'm probably not being fair to this when I say it's not like reality, because sports, yeah, you probably do get reactions like this because it's high adrenaline, high octane, and you want it to feel like a fight. So you might go for that stuff. I just don't think it comes up that much in my parts of life. But I would say that he does a couple things, really interesting things there. One is he's gotten that emotion up really high, right? He's put a ton of not just emotion, but energy. And his emotion and energy have stayed side by side this whole time. It started low and then it gets high. But now all of a sudden what he does is he keeps the emotion high, but he drops the energy down, right? You can almost think about, like, you can almost like think of it as putting a lid on something that's pressurized. You want to build up pressure at the end. So when he asks his audience, what are they going to do, as his words, his call to action, where he tells them to do something, there's all this emotion built up there. And he's all of a sudden almost suppressing this emotion with this really focused low energy. And then he says, what are you going to do? And that's when the emotion explodes. So his goal in this case, like we've talked about, is to get an explosive response, have 15 minutes of insanity so they can get all the touchdowns in the world, right? But by doing something like that, it's nice to have that low energy, but high emotion, high impact conclusion, because you get great responses from an audience with that, right? You get an audience that's really sitting there and focusing on the emotion because they aren't letting out that emotion with energy. It's not going anywhere. It's all staying in. So they're getting to focus on it because you're really bringing the emotions getting focused in with the energy level. And I think it's done really well. He does that a couple different ways, his voice, his gestures, things like that. Right. One thing that I noticed about Pacino is the more intense he gets, the higher his eyebrows get, it seems to be. And that might just be, I noticed a couple instances here, but in this case, either way, I speak with my eyebrows too, right? I think he does a lot to kind of control the emotion, energy with his face, with his voice, with his hands. He does a ton. And I think he does it well. Do I think this fits reality? Not my reality, but it may be in specific contexts that this would work. I've never spoken in a locker room before, but I have given motivational speeches to big audiences. It's just, it wasn't in a locker room and the context was different. So, thoughts?
Yeah. It's very interesting. If we think back 50, 60 years ago, the moon landing, what is the catchphrase keep coming back? Eagle has landed. And that is the catchphrase. And that's what the speech is. This speech does such an amazing job taking energy to a very high level, get people's blood boil. And then the difficulty is how he landed. And in my opinion, he stick the landing by bringing the energy down, lower the energy. And that is a bit counterintuitive. You say, well, shouldn't you go higher to make the point? You end stronger? Well, in this case, this huge contract of quiet moment, let people think. You give people time, room, energy to think. And that's what we say usually is let the message to sink in, and there is a moment to do so. So that is a beautiful, beautiful landing for a speech. I mean, this is a template when motivational speech can be a template when an emotion response you expect from an audience. That's the ideal word of a motivational speech.
This type of motivational speech. Like I say, I don't.
Yeah, this time.
Yes, it does give some great examples. I'll give you that. We might have I don't know if we agree on everything about the speech. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's ideal. It's ideal for this situation, but can it be applied more broadly? Not to me, but that's just.
Well, you think about the techniques he's using, bring energy high and landing. I think that's universal.
That is true. It's true. He does do a great job with his delivery, right? The delivery is on par, and I think you are right that having a director to tell you how many times you're using the music helps. Having an audience that is going to react however you want them to react also helps. But overall, he does do an excellent job of those things. And having an audience react however you want does actually help a lot in helping to improve our delivery. But I won't be any meaner to this speech. In general, though, I think in context, it totally makes sense for that kind of thing. Do I think it's applicable to the real world? No. I think parts of the real world, yes. The real world that a lot of people are in, which doesn't involve too many locker room speeches, I don't know, but it's a lot of fun and it's really well delivered.
Yeah, I agree with that.
With all that said, I think that covers it. We spent enough time on this one. Hopefully that was useful. Anyone who's looking to make a motivational speech can hopefully do so. Thank you very much for spending some time with us, and we'll see you all again sometime soon.
Stay fishy out there. Here's ZAPY speaking.